Hey everyone, and welcome. Today, we're jumping into a really big question, one you hear about all the time. What does development actually mean? We think of it as progress, right? But is it always? And maybe more importantly, who gets to decide? Okay, let's get into it. So let's just start right here, because this image gets to the absolute heart of the matter. On one side, you've got Banjara Hills in Hyderabad. It's a picture of modern wealth and, well, progress. But on the other side, that's the Dharvi slum in Mumbai, home to literally millions. Both of these places exist in the same country. Both are, in a way, the results of development. This contrast just forces you to ask that crucial question: progress for whom? All right, so here's our game plan. We're going to start by really looking at these two sides of the coin and how we even try to measure what progress is. Then, we'll dig into the hidden environmental costs, listen to a really powerful story from the front lines, and then, and this is the exciting part, we'll explore some new, more hopeful paths forward. First up, let's talk about how we measure what we treasure. You know, for the longest time, when we talked about development, we were really just talking about one thing: money. Specifically, a number called gross domestic product, or GDP. But a single number like that doesn't tell you a thing about whether people are healthy, or if their kids are getting an education, or, if they have a decent quality of life. So along came the Human Development Index, or HDI, which was, a huge step in the right direction. It adds things like health and education into the equation. But here's the catch: even a tool as good as the HDI can mask some really massive inequalities. A country can look pretty good on paper with a decent HDI score, even while millions and millions of its people are being left behind. And wow, does this slide really bring that inequality into sharp focus? Just look at these numbers from 2010. You've got a staggering 135 million households in the deprived category, and at the other end, just 3 million considered rich. This isn't shared prosperity. It's a massive pyramid with a very, very wide base of people struggling to get by. Now let's look at the very, very tip of that pyramid. Back in 1996, India had just 3 billionaires, okay? Just 3. Keep that number in your head for a second. And here's the punchline. Just 15 years later, that number, it didn't just grow, it exploded from 3 to 55. So while hundreds of millions of people were still in that deprived category, wealth at the very top was concentrating at this unbelievable rate. The takeaway is pretty clear, right? The economy was growing, for sure, but that growth was anything but equal. And this single-minded focus on economic growth didn't just lead to social inequality. Nope. It came with a huge and often hidden environmental price tag. Which brings us to our next section: Earth's overdraft notice. It's like we've been swiping a credit card with the planet for decades, racking up a massive debt. And now, the bill is coming due. To really get this, there are 2 key ideas we need to understand. The first one is what's called the source function. This is basically everything the environment provides for us to use, all the raw materials. Think land, water, minerals, timber. It's the source of pretty much all our economic activity. And the second idea is the sink function. This is the environment's incredible, almost magical ability to clean up our mess. It absorbs pollution, breaks down our waste. It's our planet's cleanup crew. But, and this is so important, that ability is not infinite. There's a limit to how much it can handle. And boy, have we been pushing those limits. Just look at this chart. Between 1997 and 2010, the amount of iron ore we pulled out of the ground more than tripled. Coal extraction nearly doubled. We've been taking from the source at a pace that is just accelerating like crazy, and it is simply not sustainable. And it's not just the stuff we can see on the surface. Right under our feet, there's this silent crisis going on. In nearly a third of the country, we are pumping groundwater out of the earth way faster than the rains can possibly refill it. We're literally draining our planet's savings account. And at the same time, we are totally overwhelming the sink function. I mean, think about this. all the way back in 1962. Rachel Carson was warning us in her book Silent Spring about how pesticides like DDT don't just go away. They build up in the food chain, poisoning birds, fish, and eventually us. We've known this for decades. But these environmental costs, they aren't just numbers on a chart. They have a real human price. And to understand that, we need to turn to a letter from the river, a story told by a man named Baba Maharia, whose village was facing annihilation from a development project, the Sardar Sarovar Dam. In his letter to the government, he just, right from the start, flips the whole idea of poverty on its head. He says, you might think we're poor, but we're not. For his people, wealth isn't about money. It's about being satisfied with their life, with their land. And he goes on to explain this entirely different kind of economy, one that's totally invisible to something like GDP. The forest gives them everything they need: food, medicine, security when times get tough. He says, the forest is our moneylender and banker. What an incredible way to put it. And you can just feel that the connection they have to their home is so much deeper than just economics. It's spiritual. It's ancestral. This isn't just a place where they happen to live. It's a fundamental part of who they are. His letter ends with this incredibly powerful, defiant statement. And it just forces us to confront that gut-wrenching question. If your idea of progress demands the complete destruction of a people's entire world, is it really progress at all? But here's the thing. That's not where the story ends. Not by a long shot. Faced with these enormous challenges, people are fighting back. They're organizing and they're innovating. So for our final section, let's look at how people are starting to forge a new path, one that tries to redefine progress to include fairness and the health of our planet. And this change is bubbling up from all different directions. You see it in these powerful social movements. You see it in the courts, which have actually ruled that the fundamental right to life has to include the right to clean air and clean water. And you see it in these amazing innovations happening at the community level. I mean, just take farming, for example. This chart lays out the difference so clearly. Modern industrial agriculture, it's all about chemical inputs and planting just one single crop over huge areas, which just destroys the soil over time. But organic farming, it's about using natural techniques, encouraging biodiversity with lots of different crops, and using local resources. It's all about working with nature, not trying to fight against it. And check out this fantastic real-world example from a place called Zahirabad. Groups of women there decided to bring back traditional millets, these amazing crops that are perfectly suited to their dry climate. They started farming on land that was sitting empty, they created their own community grain bank, and they basically took control of their own food security. This is what true grassroots sustainable development actually looks like. Okay, so let's just take a step back for a second. We've seen the deep, deep problems with our old idea of progress. We've seen the human cost, the environmental cost, but we've also seen these inspiring, amazing solutions that are already taking root. The path forward is there. And what that means is the fundamental question we need to ask ourselves has changed. It's no longer a question of what can be done. It's now a question of what will we choose to do. What choices are we, as individuals, as communities, as entire nations, going to make to build a world that is not just prosperous, but is also fundamentally just for every single person and for this planet that we all call home?